We see it time and time again on the grandest stages of the sport. An elite athlete strides off the court during a major event without a single scratch on their body, yet their mind seems completely shattered. Television commentators barely dedicated 30 seconds to the strange incident before shifting focus. However, the hardcore audience refused to drop the subject. Every single message board, social media thread, and private group chat buzzed with one relentless mystery. How does Carlos Alcaraz manage to make hardened tour veterans appear so utterly bewildered during a match? We are talking about brilliant tacticians bringing highly calculated strategies, alongside rivals who previously held victories over him. These are masters of the game who spent their entire lives deciphering their rivals across the net, whispering about his undeniable natural gifts. They praise his lightning-fast footwork, yet they always end up staring blankly into the void when the final point concludes. Stefanos Tsitsipas actively alters where he stands on the court just to survive him, while Novak Djokovic, a man who spent 20 years cracking every single code in tennis history, departs from defeats against the young Spaniard with a look on his face that defies all logical explanation. Finally, an expert trainer took the time to break down the architectural genius causing this widespread phenomenon. Forget the superficial television analysis. This is the unvarnished truth about a prodigy whose skill level at such a young age is unprecedented. He boasts a flawlessly rounded game, which is proven by official tour statistics and in-depth performance metrics that have been hiding in broad daylight, begging for a keen eye to piece them together. Make sure to hit that subscribe button because we dive deep into the hidden narratives that traditional sports media conveniently ignores. Let us explore the exact reason the entire locker room dreads facing Alcaraz, backed by undeniable mathematics. The moment a strategist begins drafting a tactical scheme to defeat him, they instantly discover that traditional tennis warfare is utterly useless. Powerful ball strikers usually follow a strict script, pin the opponent to the back fence, soak up their aggression, and ruthlessly outlast them until a mistake happens. Professionals dedicate decades to perfecting this exact strategy, and it successfully neutralizes nearly every single elite contender on the circuit. Yet, when implementing this against the Spanish phenom, tactical minds constantly hit a brick wall, discovering that his true advantage lies far beyond mere foot speed or brute strength. It ultimately boils down to a singular, devastating technique that instantly transforms any solid defensive stance into an inescapable trap. It required a professional instructor to articulate the mechanics behind this absolute sorcery on the court. To be fair, executing a delicate short ball is standard practice for elite competitors. It is hardly an exclusive trick. Dirtballers have relied on this exact touch for generations, hoping that studying his aggressively artistic approach will provide some answers. However, the sheer existence of this delicate stroke was never what kept rival camps awake at night. The true terror emerged from the mathematical reality of how he chooses to deploy it. Official statistics reveal that a standard tour-level competitor attempts about 0.85 point-ending forehand short balls per contest, securing roughly 51.5% of those exchanges. Meanwhile, Alcaraz unleashes 2.83 per match, walking away victorious in an astonishing 67.7% of those scenarios. He executes this play over triple the normal rate of his peers, boasting an efficiency advantage that towers nearly 17% above the baseline average. When stepping onto the red dirt, his reliance on this deadly forehand maneuver skyrockets to 3.81 times per battle. Yet, the single statistic that should strike absolute terror into the heart of any rival during their preparation meeting is something else entirely. Approximately 1 out of every 6 times he disguises this forehand, it happens during crucial break opportunities or moments that directly set them up. Furthermore, his success rate during those nerve-wracking, high-stakes situations sits at a mind-bending 71.4%, proving he never relies on this as a lazy trick when comfortably ahead. Instead, he unleashes his most disorienting offensive tool exactly when the battle hangs by a thread, snatching almost 3/4 of those crucial rallies. This is completely devoid of meaningless showboating. It is a ruthless, mathematically proven method of suffocation, while amateur breakdowns and television pundits lazily brush it off as mere magical feel. The men on the microphone quickly pivot away, but elite strategists dive much deeper, knowing full well that this delicate maneuver is never born in a vacuum. The magic stems from a masterfully orchestrated chain of events that begins long before his racket ever brushes the ball. The trap is always perfectly set before the young champion even decides to spring it. He establishes a brutal baseline rhythm by crushing the ball at an average of 134 kilometers per hour, which is noticeably heavier than his usual cruising speed. This relentless barrage of heavy artillery inevitably bulldozes his adversaries deep into the shadows of the stadium. Official telemetry confirms that a typical challenger is exiled 14.5 meters away from the barrier, the very fraction of a second he disguises that deadly forehand. This leaves them stranded 1.6 meters deeper than their already defensive comfort zone, creating a massive logistical nightmare when you deduct the necessary reaction interval. Once you account for the sheer mental processing required to identify the trick, halt their backward slide, and throw their weight forward, the math becomes grim. The poor soul on the other end is left with a microscopic 1.1 seconds to sprint that canyon, a feat that would break an Olympic track star. An athlete desperately pinned against the backstops during a fierce exchange is facing an absolutely unwinnable scenario. The laws of physics dictate their failure before their shoes even squeak to change direction, and somehow, the nightmare only deepens from there. Surviving that massive sprint might be plausible if a rival could anticipate the trick and cheat forward, but Alcaraz violently strips that luxury away as well. This specific tactical nightmare is exactly what leaves opposing mentors scratching their heads in absolute despair. The mastermind trainers over at the Juan Carlos Ferrero Academy let slip a devastating secret that changes absolutely everything we know. When he shifts from a blistering topspin drive to a delicate touch play, his hand barely moves on the racket handle. Every other elite player betrays their intention with a grip adjustment, whether it is a tiny slide or an obvious twist giving the game away before the swing even happens. Hawk-eyed trainers catch it from the stands, and sharp rivals sense the impending shift deep within the pulse of the exchange. But the young Spaniard erases that clue completely, winding up his swing with the terrifying disguise of a brutal baseline strike. Naturally, his victims follow their instincts. They see the heavy windup and instinctively lean back to brace against a rocket of a ball. The horrific realization that it is actually a feather-light floater hits them far too late when their momentum is already chained to the backstop. That agonizing delay between the ball leaving his strings and the desperate scramble forward is, based on official Association of Tennis Professionals statistics, basically unheard of in the modern sport. While his childhood mentor Kiko Navarro revealed in 2025 that a pint-sized Alcaraz was already torturing kids with this ghost-like fake-out at Les Petits, as perhaps the most fiercely competitive youth championship on the planet. So, the men across the net are not facing some brand new trick he cooked up during the off-season. They are suffering against a lethal blade honed over 10 grueling years, a reality that tennis legend Tracy Austin summed up perfectly when talking about his devastating power stroke. He relentlessly pins his challengers against the back wall, which leaves the entire front half of the battleground utterly defenseless. Combining velvet touch with a lethal sense of timing, he deploys that short ball like an assassin, making it a terrifying weapon. While that paints a brutal picture of the athletic devastation, it still fails to answer why world-class athletes stumble off the court against him, looking like hollowed-out ghosts, destroyed by something far worse than mere fatigue. The terrifying truth lies in the mind, because elite-level competition relies entirely on locking into a predictable rhythm. A warrior figures out his winning blueprint early on, hammers it relentlessly, and feeds his own ego through that familiar cycle. Anticipating the next strike allows the best of the best to survive the soul-crushing psychological pressure of a grand stage. That is the secret to finding the zone and surfing the wave of victory through epic, grueling battles. But when facing this Spanish prodigy, that comforting sense of control is violently shattered the instant a rival tries to grasp it. Retreat into the shadows to survive his baseline artillery, and you essentially roll out the red carpet for his lethal short game. A massive void appears near the net, trapping you miles away with absolutely zero chance of sprinting back to salvation. But if you dare to step up and suffocate the dink, the vast empty space at your back becomes an absolute minefield. Those blistering lasers down the line, towering moonballs, and brutal diagonal scorchers suddenly turn fatal the second you abandon your backfield fortress. You are left stranded in a war zone with nowhere safe to hide. Any attempt to build a shield opens a gaping wound somewhere else, creating a nightmare scenario that tactical gurus refer to as defending in three planes. A victim is forced into a state of sheer paranoia, guarding the sidelines, the back fence, and the net all at once, during every single strike. While a normal professional dogfight only demands focus on two fronts, stepping into the arena with Alcaraz means that third terrifying axis is always locked and loaded. Hard statistics pulled from a massive 60-warrior analytical study quantify this slaughter, revealing the Spaniard unleashes his baseline trickery on approximately 5.4% of his plays. That matches the exact identical rate of Alexander Bublik, a maverick who basically built his entire career identity around that delicate play. Yet while Bublik survives just 45.4% of those gambles, the Spanish maestro walks away with a staggering 62.1% success rate. When algorithmic formulas calculate the actual worth of this tactic, weighing it against normal rallies played from those exact footprints, his execution emerges as the deadliest weapon among all tracked professionals, and the carnage bleeds far beyond the immediate point. Deep analytics reveal that following one of these cat-and-mouse scrambles, whoever claims the glory, his chances of conquering the very next battle leap to 44%, shattering the tour standard of 38.3%. The sheer psychological chaos infects the upcoming duel like a virus. His adversary is still haunted by the ghost of the previous exchange while desperately trying to survive the current strike. During the grass court warfare of Queen's Club 2023, official tournament trackers captured him, dominating with a +30 edge in rapid-fire blasts of 0 to 4 swings, a +18 advantage in grueling 5 to 8 stroke wars, and a +8 superiority in marathon slogs stretching past 9 hits. He completely annihilated the field across every conceivable battle duration at that singular event. Typical champions boast a specific combat rhythm where they thrive, prompting rivals to desperately drag the fight elsewhere, but this kid simply has no Achilles heel. Masterminds cannot circle a time frame on a chalkboard and demand their player target it, because no such sanctuary exists against him. Finally, an ominous minor detail truly highlights the freakish, one-of-a-kind nature of his offensive wizardry. As the prodigy tore through the global hierarchy from 2021 into the present, the entire locker room stood paralyzed in sheer terror. Competitors who already kept a short ball in their back pocket, stars like Rune, Fritz, Sinner, Tiafo, and Bublik, started firing it off relentlessly after witnessing his magic. These rivals attempted to steal his lethal trick and weave it into their own playbooks, only to watch their execution spectacularly backfire. Across that elite tier, the win rate for this exact maneuver plummeted from a solid 52.4% down to a dismal 48.2% in that exact time frame. Volume skyrocketed, but effectiveness crashed hard. The hidden truth behind this failure mirrors precisely what his training camp has been preaching all along. It is about that perfectly disguised racket hold that completely masks his next move, paired with a blistering baseline tempo that shoves victims 14.5 meters backwards before he even taps the ball. Add to that an uncanny, split-second instinct forged in the fires of countless, grueling hours of obsessive training. You simply cannot copy and paste that kind of wizardry. Minus those seamlessly moving gears, a short ball is nothing but a basic trick. Yet when Carlos wields it, it transforms into a deadly, finely tuned machine, where every single element relies heavily on the flawless execution of the rest. Take Sebastian Baez, a warrior who has stared down the Spanish phenom across the net on numerous occasions. He painted the bleakest, most brutally honest picture of the nightmare. The sheer, overwhelming firepower literally bulldozes you into the deep shadows of the court. Then, the moment he suddenly slices that ball short, flawless execution or not, you are stranded oceans away. He essentially bends time and space to his absolute advantage. Ultimately, you realize chasing it is utterly pointless. Imagine a world-class athlete at the absolute pinnacle of human performance simply surrendering, accepting that sprinting is a fool's errand. That chilling admission perfectly captures the raw statistics breathing life and terror into the heart of a live battlefield. This is the exact reason the entire locker room dreads stepping onto the court against him. It goes way beyond his blinding pace or raw muscle. It is his inescapable trap, a suffocating reality where safe zones simply do not exist. So, if you have ever witnessed his matches and puzzled over why world beaters stumble around like helpless amateurs, you finally hold the true secret. We are completely bypassing the fluffy television commentary, diving straight into the dark war rooms where frantic strategists pull their hair out trying to invent impossible cures. Sound off in the comments down below and let me know who you truly believe holds the golden key to dismantling this mastermind. I devour every single reply. Moreover, if you crave this intense level of deep dive storytelling, packed with rock-solid numbers and hardcore battlefield tactics that the major networks absolutely refuse to touch, you need to smash that subscribe button and ring the bell right now. I unleash these premium secrets every single week, and the upcoming masterpiece is already in the forge. Catch you in the next one.